The grandfather clock in the foyer of the sprawling Hawthorne estate struck midnight, its chimes reverberating through the cavernous, rain-slicked corridors like a ghost's lament. Alan Foster stood silently by his bedroom window, watching raindrops streak the glass like tears he had long run out of strength to shed. 10 years. 10 years since Selena disappeared without a trace. No goodbye, no clues, just silence. Alan turned to his nightstand. In a polished silver frame sat her photograph. Her auburn hair glowed in the captured sunlight, her radiant smile frozen in time. Just beneath her collarbone, that distinctive crescent-shaped birthmark peeked from beneath her blouse. He reached out and gently traced the glass. He did this every night, a ritual more sacred than prayer. "I still don't understand," he whispered into the quiet. "Where did you go, Selena?" Alan Foster was a man used to controlling every variable, CEO of Foster Global Developments, a real estate empire built with his own hands. Yet the one thing he could never master was the mystery of his wife's disappearance. There was no body, no letter, no closure, just an unanswered question that haunted every inch of his empire. Down the hall, 16-year-old Liam Foster sat cross-legged on his bed, flipping through brittle pages of old photo albums. Tomorrow marked the 10-year anniversary of the day his mother vanished. He was only 6 back then, old enough to hurt, too young to remember her properly. "Dad?" he called out when he heard footsteps in the hallway. Alan appeared in the doorway, his frame shadowed in the dim light. The years had etched deeper lines into his face. "You should be asleep," Alan said softly. "I was just trying to remember her laugh," Liam said, his voice cracking slightly. "I can see her face, but I can't hear her voice anymore." Alan crossed the room and sat beside his son, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "She had the kind of laugh that filled a room," he said quietly. "When something really made her laugh, she'd throw her head back. You couldn't help but join in." Liam nodded slowly, trying to anchor the description in the fragments of memory still clinging to his heart. "You'll postpone your meetings tomorrow, right? Like you always do?" he asked. "Already done," Alan confirmed. "We'll visit the lake. She loved it there." Nearly 100 miles away in the coastal town of Port Bright, a woman jolted upright in bed, her breath ragged. The nightmare was the same as always, falling through darkness, screaming for someone she couldn't name. Nora Hayes swung her legs over the side of the bed, the old floorboards creaking beneath her. She padded to the bathroom, splashed cold water on her face, and stared at the mirror. The reflection was hers. But the woman staring back, a stranger. Her fingers found the crescent-shaped birthmark just below her collarbone, a nervous habit when the anxiety hit hardest. The void where 30 years of memories should have been yawned within her, dark and fathomless. 10 years ago, she'd been found wandering alone along the highway. No name, no identity, pregnant, and bleeding. A soft knock broke her trance. "Mom, you okay?" came a small voice from the hallway. Nora opened the door to find her 9-year-old daughter Mia clutching a stuffed rabbit. "Just a bad dream, sweetheart," Nora said gently, kneeling down to her level. "Go back to sleep." "Was it the falling dream again?" Mia asked, her intelligent brown eyes locked onto her mother's. Nora nodded slowly, always marveling at Mia's uncanny perceptiveness. "Will you be okay for work tomorrow?" "Of course," Nora smiled faintly. "The Lighthouse Grill can't run without its top waitress." Mia returned to bed, but Nora lingered in the hallway, gazing down the narrow corridor of their small rental home. Her boss, Margaret, the woman who had taken her in off the highway all those years ago, often said some things were better left in the past. But as the anniversary of her new life loomed, Nora couldn't stop wondering what or who she'd left behind. She touched her birthmark, again her only clue, her only tether to a life she couldn't remember. And elsewhere, as the rain whispered against windows in both Port Bright and Seattle, 2 families, one grieving, one forgotten, drifted closer to a revelation that would bind them together forever. "Dad, you promised this would be our weekend," Liam said, his voice flat as he stared out the car window. The gray skyline of Seattle faded in the rearview mirror as the Foster family sedan drove east along the rain-soaked highway. "I know," Alan replied, tightening his grip on the steering wheel. "And it still is. I just need 2 hours in Port Bright to inspect the proposed resort site. After that, it's just you and me at the lake cabin, fishing, no phones, no emails." The Foster Estates resort project had been in the works for months. The location, Port Bright's coastline, was pristine, ripe for development. Alan hadn't wanted to take the trip during the anniversary weekend, but his business partner Victor Langston had insisted, and perhaps a brief distraction would do him some good. Liam slouched in his seat, earbuds already in. Whatever, as they crossed into Port Bright, the weathered town unfurled before them. Fishing boats bobbed in the harbor and salt clung to the air. The Bright Watch lighthouse, tall and stoic, stood like a sentinel watching over the bay. "We'll grab lunch first," Alan said, making a peace offering. The development brief mentioned a popular spot called the Lighthouse Grill. The cafe was packed when they arrived, buzzing with weekend tourists and locals. A brass bell chimed above the door as they stepped inside. A gray-haired woman, behind the counter, Margaret, according to her apron, nodded toward a booth by the window. "Someone will be with you shortly," she called. Alan spread his blueprints across the table, trying to focus on work instead of memories. Liam barely looked up, still scrolling through his phone. "Here are some menus," came a warm voice. Alan didn't lift his head, but Liam glanced up and froze. Their waitress stood beside the table, auburn hair pulled back in a neat ponytail, her face tired but kind. Her name tag read Nora. But it wasn't the name or voice that stopped Liam's breath. It was the crescent-shaped birthmark, barely visible beneath her uniform collar. The same mark his mother had. The one in every photo his dad kept. He stared, unable to look away. "Did I interrupt something important?" Nora asked gently, misreading the boy's wide-eyed expression. "No, we're just," Alan began casually, not even glancing up. But Liam reached across the table and tugged his father's sleeve urgently. "Dad," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Look at her. Look at her neck." Alan's eyes lifted slowly. His gaze locked with Nora's. The menu in his hand fluttered to the table. Her birthmark, exact in size, shape, and position, peeked from under her collar. But it wasn't just that. It was her eyes, her posture, her presence. Despite the faint scar near her temple, the difference in hairstyle, the passage of a decade, he knew that face. His mouth went dry. "Sir? Are you okay?" Nora asked, stepping back slightly. Alan struggled to find words. "You just remind me of someone." Nora instinctively touched her birthmark, unaware the gesture stabbed through Alan like a spear. It was the same unconscious motion Selena used to make when she was nervous. "I'll give you a minute with the menus," she said, turning quickly and disappearing through the swinging kitchen doors. Inside, Margaret looked up from the grill. "What's wrong? You look like you saw a ghost." Nora placed a hand over her chest. "The man in booth 4. The way he looked at me. It rattled me." Margaret peeked out the small kitchen window. "Rich folk. Always more trouble than they're worth. Fancy suits, fancy watches, no manners." "I'll go back," Nora said after a pause, surprising even herself. "I just got a strange feeling, that's all." Back at the booth, Alan stared blankly at the open plans in front of him. "Are you sure about what you saw?" he asked quietly. Liam leaned forward, urgent. "Dad, it's her. It's Mom's birthmark, and she looks like her. Older, yeah, different hair, but it's her." Alan's voice dropped to a whisper. "It's not possible." "But what if it is?" Liam pressed, eyes wide. "She vanished 10 years ago. No one ever found out where she went." "Don't!" Alan snapped more harshly than intended. "Don't go there." But when Nora returned with their waters, both father and son fell silent, watching her carefully. Every step she took, every expression she made, each held echoes of a life they thought lost. And across town, the pieces were already shifting. Rain slammed against the windows of the Hawthorne estate back in Seattle. Alan Foster knelt in front of a cedar trunk tucked beneath the bedroom window, one he hadn't opened in nearly a decade. His hands trembled as he lifted the lid. A familiar scent rose from within. Selena's perfume, preserved in the folds of scarves and pressed garments. It's impossible, he murmured, voice brittle. But impossibility didn't stop him from sifting through old photographs. In one, she laughed on a beach, head thrown back, the crescent-shaped birthmark unmistakable above her collarbone. He laid it next to 3 others, all bearing the same mark in the same place. He wasn't imagining it. The waitress from Port Bright, Nora, had the exact same mark. Not similar, identical. His phone buzzed. It was Diana, his fiancée of 6 months. He let the call go to voicemail and instead dialed a number he had deleted years ago, yet somehow never forgot. The gruff voice on the other end answered after 1 ring. Ryan Graves. Alan cleared his throat. It's Alan Foster. A pause. 7 years. Maybe 8. What's going on? I need your help, Alan said, barely keeping his voice from cracking. I think I found her. That same evening, Liam was at his laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. As a child of the digital age, he knew where to look. Social databases, government records, archived newspapers. But when he searched for Nora Hayes, he found nothing. No school transcripts, no prior addresses, no employment history. Like she didn't exist, he muttered, staring at the blank search results. It was as if she had stepped into existence 10 years ago, right when Selena disappeared. In Port Bright, Nora tucked Mia into bed. Her daughter's voice floated up suddenly from beneath the covers. Mom, where did I get my blue eyes from? Nora blinked. What? Yours are brown, Mia said, propping herself up. So is my hair, but my eyes are bright blue. The question caught Nora off guard. These were the hardest moments, when Mia asked about a past Nora couldn't give her, a family tree Nora couldn't complete. I don't know, Nora admitted. Maybe your father had blue eyes. Maybe someone in my family did. But I don't remember. You don't remember him? Nora touched the birthmark near her collarbone. A reflex. No, sweetheart. I wish I could tell you more about him. About us. It's okay, Mia said softly, squeezing her hand. Margaret says some mysteries shouldn't be solved. But that night when Mia fell asleep, Nora couldn't ignore the tug anymore. Something about the man and boy in the cafe had stirred something in her chest she couldn't name. She found herself scrolling through old digital newspapers at the local library, her eyes searching for anything, any clue. The man's face, that boy's eyes. She couldn't let it go. She left the library, walked home under a patchy moon, and paused at Margaret's cottage. Her knock was quiet but firm. The older woman opened the door, tying her robe. Nora, what's wrong? The birthmark, Nora said, skipping any pleasantries. You've seen it. You must have noticed it when you found me 10 years ago. It's distinctive. Someone might recognize it. Someone might have been looking for me. Margaret's face went pale. Some things are better left forgotten. That's not your decision to make, Nora said, louder than she meant to. Margaret sighed, suddenly looking all of her 70 years. She stepped back and held the door open. Come in, she said. There's something I should have told you years ago. Back in Seattle, Ryan Graves sat at his desk, scanning the photos Alan had sent him. Grainy cafe snapshots, but the resemblance was undeniable. The woman looked like Selena, and the birthmark, it was impossible to fake. People age, Ryan said. Change their hair, but that mark? You don't just find 2 of those. Alan's voice was hoarse. You think it could be her? I'll head to Port Bright tomorrow, Ryan said. Start digging. He hesitated. But if this is Selena, the bigger question is, why hasn't she come home? Across town, in an office lined with dark wood and sharp secrets, Victor Langston stared at his phone. A text from one of his project managers in Port Bright read, Foster was at the Lighthouse Grill today. Looked shaken. Left without reviewing the site. Victor's jaw tensed. He dialed quickly. Diana, we need to talk about Alan. Something's happening in Port Bright. Something we may need to control. In Port Bright, Margaret's hands shook as she poured tea. Nora sat rigid, barely breathing. I knew who you were the moment I found you, Margaret said at last. Bleeding, pregnant, and with no memory. You were near death. But I recognized you. Recognized me? Nora whispered. From where? I used to work for a wealthy family in Seattle, Margaret said. I was their housekeeper. They fired me just months before you appeared, on that road. Nora's heartbeat thundered in her ears. You were part of their household, she asked. The Foster family? Margaret gave a small nod. Selena Foster disappeared the same night I found you broken and wandering on that highway. I thought, no, I knew. You were her. Why didn't you take me to a hospital in Seattle? To my family? Margaret's expression turned fierce. Because someone tried to kill you, and I couldn't risk letting them finish the job. The next morning, in a quiet corner of Port Bright Regional Hospital, former Detective Ryan Graves sat in his rental car with a steaming coffee and an old notebook in hand. Rain tapped steadily on the windshield, a rhythm that matched his pulse. 20 years in law enforcement had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now, they were screaming. He reviewed the records again. 10 years ago, a Jane Doe had been admitted after being found unconscious on the coastal highway. She was pregnant, suffering from a severe head injury, total amnesia. The date aligned exactly with Selena Foster's disappearance. Ryan's jaw clenched. That's not coincidence, he muttered. He checked the file again. The woman had been released into the care of a local resident named Margaret Whitley, who, he'd confirmed through a contact in Seattle, had worked for the Foster family for 7 years before being suddenly dismissed. Not by Alan Foster, by Victor Langston. Ryan's eyes narrowed. Now we're getting somewhere. At that very moment, in the small home she shared with Mia, Nora Hayes sat numb, hands clenched around a chipped mug of tea. Across the table, Margaret looked tired of hiding. You worked for the Fosters, Nora said slowly. And you recognized me the night you found me. Yes. Then why keep it secret? Why let me live a lie for a decade? Margaret's voice shook. Because Victor Langston had already tried to kill you once. If he found out you survived. But why? Nora's voice cracked. Why would he want me dead? Margaret looked away. I don't know everything. But I heard something the night before you disappeared. An argument between Victor and Selena. He was shouting, threatening her. I stayed silent in the hallway. The next morning she was gone. Her car found abandoned near the cliffs, and you were fired, Nora whispered. They accused me of stealing a silver serving set, but no police report was ever filed. I was being silenced. Back in Seattle, Alan Foster paced the study in his mansion, while Liam sat at the desk, laptop open. I couldn't sleep, Liam explained. So I kept digging. There's literally no record of Nora Hayes before 10 years ago. It's like she dropped from the sky. Alan nodded, jaw tight. Ryan just confirmed something. A Jane Doe was admitted to Port Bright Hospital the same night your mom disappeared. She had amnesia. She was 8 weeks pregnant. Liam sat up straight. Mia's 9. It matches perfectly. And Margaret? Liam asked. Didn't she work for us? Yes. She was fired by Victor over that so-called theft. Your mother never believed she did it. The doorbell rang. Alan opened it to find Diana Langston, dressed immaculately in a sleek black coat holding a wine bottle. You missed dinner? She said, her voice smooth. Victor and I were starting to worry. Alan forced a polite smile. Something came up. Port Bright came up. Diana replied, eyes narrowing. Victor mentioned you've been particularly interested in the area lately. Just checking in on the project, Alan said casually. Diana stepped forward. Victor also mentioned the merger paperwork is waiting on your signature. I'll get to it. As she walked back to her car, Liam watched from the window. "Dad, do you trust Victor?" Alan didn't answer immediately. "I used to," he said finally. "But now? I don't know." That same night in Port Bright, Nora sat on her porch swing under a pale moon, Margaret's revelations echoing like thunder. In her mind, could she truly be Selena Foster, a wealthy attorney, a wife, a mother, not a waitress struggling to pay bills in a coastal town? Mia appeared at the doorway in her pajamas, her stuffed rabbit in hand. "Can't sleep," she whispered. "Come sit," Nora said softly, patting the swing. Mia curled up beside her. "Is it about that man from the cafe?" she asked. Nora smiled sadly. "You saw how he looked at me. He looked like he knew you, like you were someone important to him." Nora's throat tightened. "Margaret told me something tonight, about who I might have been before." Mia sat up. "Really? Like what?" "I don't know all the details yet, but I promise no matter what happens, you and I are always going to be together." Mia leaned her head against her mother. "I know, Mom," and in that moment, as the wind carried the scent of salt and pine through the night air, Nora knew what she had to do. She would find out the truth, no matter what it cost. In the early morning light, Alan Foster stepped out of his sleek black sedan, parked once again outside the Lighthouse Grill in Port Bright. His mind raced as he clutched the worn leather-bound book in his briefcase, Selena's favorite novel, To the Lighthouse. But this copy was more than sentimental. It was a test. He'd found it the night before while sorting through a storage box filled with her things. Her handwritten notes still filled the margins. It was the kind of book she used to read aloud to Liam, curled up together on rainy afternoons. If Nora was truly Selena, some part of her might still remember. Alan took a deep breath and entered the cafe. It was quieter this time. He chose a booth with a clear view of the kitchen and set the book on the table, open and facing up, prominently visible. When Nora approached with a gentle smile, he looked up and studied her face carefully. "Welcome back," she said, setting down a menu. "Just you today?" "My son's attending a summer program nearby," Alan replied. She nodded. "Would you like coffee while you decide?" "Yes, please." As she reached for the pot, her eyes landed on the book. She froze mid-motion. Her hand lifted unconsciously to her collarbone, brushing against the birthmark. "Good book?" she asked, her voice slightly strained. "My wife's favorite," Alan replied evenly. She used to read it aloud. Something flickered in Nora's eyes. Confusion. Or was it pain? She set the coffee pot down carefully. "I'll be right. Back with your cup." In the kitchen, Nora pressed her palms against the counter, eyes shut tight. Behind her eyelids, images swirled. Herself, seated by a window, reading to a dark-haired boy. A boy laughing. A boy calling her mom. But the image slipped away before she could hold on to it. "You okay?" Margaret asked, wiping her hands on a towel. "He's back," Nora said, her voice tight. "The man from the other day." Margaret's brows pulled together. "Stay away from him, Nora, please, I'm begging you." "I can't," Nora whispered. "There's something about him, Margaret. When I saw that book, something inside me moved. That night, her dreams worsened. A child screaming, 'Mom!' Numbers flashing across documents. A man's voice yelling. A car swerving off a mountain road. Headlights. Impact." She woke, drenched in sweat, heart pounding. Mia stood in the doorway, clutching her rabbit. "You were crying out." Nora pulled her into bed, holding her close. "Was it another dream about your past?" Mia whispered. "Maybe," Nora answered. "I don't know why I can't remember." Mia was quiet for a moment. "My teacher says sometimes your brain protects you from remembering bad things. Maybe that's what yours is doing." Nora kissed her forehead, tears stinging her eyes. Back in Seattle, Alan stood in his home office, the floorboards creaking beneath him as he opened the hidden safe Selena once insisted they install. Inside, Untouched for years were backup company records she'd kept as the legal head of Foster Global. He flipped through the files methodically. One folder stood out, marked only with a red question mark. Inside were financial records, annotated in Selena's tight, meticulous handwriting. Alan scanned the notes. Cayman accounts. Amounts don't match. Shell corporations with no clear owners. Ask Victor to clarify sources. Alan's blood ran cold. These were the same offshore accounts Victor Langston had claimed were just standard tax shelters. But Selena had suspected fraud, and she was right. His phone buzzed. "Dad?" Liam's voice came through. "I joined the Anderson Institute summer math program. It's in Port Bright." Alan frowned. "You did what?" "It's a prestigious program. Also..." Liam hesitated. "Guess who else is in it? Mia Hayes, Nora's daughter." "Liam, we can't interfere." "It's more than a hunch, Dad," Liam said quietly. "Mia's a math prodigy, just like Mom." Alan's heart stopped. Selena had once considered a career in theoretical mathematics before going into law, and now this girl, possibly his daughter, was following the same path. The next morning in Port Bright, Nora walked barefoot along the beach, waves brushing against her ankles. She hadn't slept well. Every image in her dreams had been sharper than ever before. The book, Alan's eyes, the numbers, the boy. She dropped to her knees in the sand and ran her fingers through her hair, breath catching. "I am Selena Foster," she whispered. "What happens to the life I've built as Nora? What happens to Mia?" Behind her, the lighthouse loomed. She stared up at it, her decision rising with the morning sun. She would find the truth, no matter how deeply it was buried, no matter what it might cost. The sun filtered through the glass walls of the Anderson Institute, casting angular light across rows of students hunched over desks. Among them, Liam Foster scanned the room until his eyes landed on the youngest face there, Mia Hayes, 9 years old, solving complex calculus problems while teens twice her age scribbled nervously. He approached slowly, holding a lunch tray. "Is this seat taken?" he asked. Mia looked up, her expression cautious. "For a 9-year-old, it's free." Liam smiled, sitting down. "I'm Liam. Just arrived yesterday." "Mia," she said, "are you here for the full 6 weeks?" "That's the plan." As they ate, Liam subtly studied her face, the slope of her nose, the arch of her brow. She had features that echoed his own and his mother's. The resemblance was subtle but undeniable. He tried to keep the conversation casual. "My dad and I move around a lot. What about you?" "All my life in Port Bright," Mia said, taking a bite of her sandwich. "Well, all I can remember anyway. I was born just after my mom came here." "So, both your parents live here?" Mia hesitated. "Just my mom. I mean, I have a dad, somewhere, but Mom doesn't remember him." Liam almost dropped his fork. "Doesn't remember?" "She has amnesia," Mia said matter-of-factly. "She doesn't remember anything from before 10 years ago. Margaret, she's kind of like my grandma, found her on the road after some accident. Mom was already pregnant with me." Liam's heart pounded. This was more than coincidence, it matched everything. "That must be hard." Mia shrugged. "Sometimes I catch her looking in the mirror, like she's expecting to see someone else." Over. The next several days, Liam and Mia grew close. Despite the age gap, her intelligence and emotional depth made their connection feel natural. She loved chess, just like Selena used to, and she played with the same unconventional opening move. His mother had taught him. "Where'd you learn that?" he asked after a near checkmate. "From books," Mia said proudly. "Mom's terrible at chess." One afternoon, as they walked home from the institute, Liam gathered his courage. "Has your mom ever tried to figure out who she was before?" he asked. "She's tried," Mia said seriously. "Doctors, specialists, but nothing worked. Margaret says it's better not to dig up the past." Mia paused, then added, "But lately Mom's been different. Nightmares, headaches. She says she sees flashes, but they fade too fast." They rounded the corner to Mia's street, and Liam froze. His father's car was parked across from the Lighthouse Grill. "I didn't tell him I'd be here," Liam muttered under his breath. Through the window, he saw Alan and Nora sitting at a table, the same visible tension hovering between them like an invisible thread. When Nora turned away, Alan's expression softened into something Liam hadn't seen in years: hope and heartbreak. Inside the cafe, Nora looked up and noticed Liam as he entered with Mia. "This is my friend Liam," Mia said cheerfully. "We're doing math together." Nora's gaze flicked to Liam. Her eyes widened just slightly, caught by the familiarity in his features. "Nice to meet you, Liam," she said, her voice steady. "Are you new to Port Bright?" "Just visiting," Liam said, choosing his words carefully. Later, as Alan drove Liam back to the dorms, they sat in silence until Liam finally spoke. "She has Mom's laugh," he said quietly, "and her eyes." Alan nodded slowly. "I know. Mia told me. Nora's been having flashes of memory. What if they're coming back?" Alan looked over, equal parts hope and dread written across his face. If Victor was involved in Selena's disappearance, and if Nora really is her, then stirring all this up again might put them in danger. Or, Liam said, we're finally close to the truth. Across the state, in a high-rise office overlooking Seattle's skyline, Victor Langston leaned back in his leather chair, reading a security report. Alan had visited Port Bright 4 times in 2 weeks. Now Liam was there too. He picked up the phone. "Send a message to Diana. We need to meet." Alan's sniffing too close. Back in Port Bright, Nora unlocked the door to their modest home. Mia dropped her school bag and went straight to the fridge. "Mom," she said casually, "can Liam come over tomorrow?" "Maybe. We'll see." Nora started toward her bedroom to change, but Mia called out again. "He showed me a cool trick in chess today." "Oh, and he asked about your past." Nora paused mid-step. "What did you tell him?" "Just the usual," Mia shrugged. "But it got me thinking. You still have that silver pen, right? The one Margaret said was in your coat pocket when she found you?" Nora froze. "Yes. Why?" "I told Liam about it. He seemed really interested." Nora went still, a strange feeling creeping over her. The next day, Liam walked home with Mia, again nervous energy buzzing through his chest. When they reached her house, she hesitated. "Mom's still at work, but if you want, I can show you the pin." In Nora's bedroom, Mia opened a small wooden jewelry box. There, gleaming in the soft light, was a silver pen. Liam lifted it gently. His breath caught. Engraved in the side were the words, "Selena Foster, J.D., with pride, Mom and Dad." This belonged to my mom," Liam whispered. Mia's eyes widened. "What?" He turned to her. I think your mom is my mom. I think she's Selena Foster." Mia backed away, face pale. "That's impossible. My mom is Nora." Liam shook his head. "She disappeared 10 years ago, right when your mom showed up in Port Bright with amnesia. Pregnant. But why wouldn't she remember me? Or you? The car crash, the head trauma. Margaret said she lost everything." Mia sat on the edge of the bed, stunned. "If you're right, that makes us half-siblings," Liam finished. They sat in silence, the weight of everything crashing over them. Then the front door opened. "Emma," Nora called. They scrambled to return the pen just in time. But when Nora stepped into the room, she froze. Her eyes moved from their faces to the open jewelry box. "What are you doing in here?" she asked quietly. Mia stood up, tears brimming. "Mom, who is Selena Foster?" Nora blinked. "Where did you hear that name?" Mia pointed at Liam. "Is it true? Are you her?" Liam held up the pen. "These are her initials, cursive, just like in old photos. I think you're her. I think you're our mom." Nora took the pen with shaking fingers, staring at the engraving. For a long moment, no one spoke. "I don't know," she finally whispered. "But if I am Selena Foster, then someone wanted me dead." "And we're not safe," Liam said. Mia reached for her mother's hand. "I don't care what your name is," she said. "You're still my mom." Nora looked at both of them. Two children from two lives. And she knew the past wasn't going to stay buried. The brown envelope lay on the back step of the lighthouse grill, sealed and unmarked except for her name typed in neat black ink. Nora Hayes. She found it that morning before her shift, as she unlocked the kitchen door. "You going to open that, or just stare at it all day?" Margaret asked, eyeing the envelope, suspiciously. Nora peeled it open with hesitant fingers. Inside were faded newspaper clippings, stories about Selena Foster's disappearance 10 years ago. Photos of charity events, images of Alan, Selena, and a 6-year-old Liam, posing as a happy family. And there, clear as daylight, was the crescent birthmark above Selena's collarbone. Nora sank into a chair, her knees weak. The resemblance was undeniable. "Who sent this?" Margaret asked, peering over her shoulder. "I don't know," Nora whispered, voice hollow. "But after yesterday, after what Liam and Mia told me about the pen, you can't let this get in your head," Margaret warned, her tone brisk but her hands trembling. "I'm not hiding from this anymore," Nora said quietly. "Not from the truth. Not from who I might be." She remembered Liam's face as he handed her the pen, the certainty in his voice, the kindness in Mia's eyes even as she asked, "Are you her?" Something inside Nora had cracked open, and the ache now refused to close. That afternoon, in a rented office in downtown Port Bright, Ryan Graves was watching from his car. He had just seen Margaret step out of the cafe's back door, her coat pulled tight and her eyes scanning the street with a practiced wariness. He followed her to the grocery store, slipping inside and waiting until she reached the produce section. He bumped her shoulder gently, knocking a few apples from her basket. "Sorry about that," he said, kneeling to help. Margaret stiffened. Then her eyes narrowed with recognition. "Ryan Graves," she muttered. "The detective from Seattle." "Former detective," Ryan corrected. "But yes, it's me." She straightened, basket in hand. "What do you want?" "Just answers," he said quietly. "Like why Victor Langston fired you after you overheard that argument with Selena." "I don't know what you're talking about." "I think you do." Margaret's eyes locked onto his. "And I think you need to leave her alone. She's been safe for 10 years. Don't ruin that." Back at the cafe, Nora watched through the kitchen window as Mia and Liam sat in the corner booth, heads bent together over a notebook filled with numbers and equations. The way they laughed, the natural rhythm, the ease between them made her chest ache. Then she saw Alan enter the front door. He froze momentarily when he spotted the children. His gaze moved between Mia and Liam, and finally, to Nora. There was hope in his expression. And fear. "Mr. Foster," Nora said as she stepped toward him. "Your son and Mia have become close." Alan nodded. "They seem like family already." The word hung in the air like fog. "Family." Nora's hand rose unconsciously to her birthmark. "Dad," Liam said brightly, breaking the tension. "Can Mia come sailing with us Saturday? I told her about the boat." Alan looked at Nora. "That's her mother's call." Before she could respond, Margaret burst into the cafe, her face pale. "Nora," she said sharply, "we need to talk. Now." They retreated into the kitchen. Margaret's grip on Nora's arms was firm. "That detective, Ryan, he's in town. Asking questions about me, about you, about that night. I didn't tell him anything." Nora said. "Well, he knows," Margaret snapped. "He knows Victor Langston is dangerous, and now the Fosters are circling again, getting close to Mia." Nora turned to the window where Mia and Liam laughed over a chessboard. Alan stood beside them, eyes on Nora. Margaret followed her gaze. "Don't trust him, don't trust any of them." "I don't know what to believe anymore," Nora whispered. "I want answers. I want to know who I am." Margaret's expression softened. "Just promise me you'll be careful." Nora nodded, but in her heart she already knew. It was too late for careful. The truth was coming. and nothing could stop it now. Just trust me, Liam whispered to Mia as they slipped out of the Anderson Institute building during lunch. We need to talk. Somewhere private. Mia followed, a little hesitant. For a 9-year-old, she had more poise than most adults, but today, her sharp eyes held unease. You've been acting weird since yesterday, she said, especially since your dad showed up at the cafe. Liam led her to a quiet bench overlooking the harbor. Boats rocked gently on the waves as seagulls circled above. Mia, he began carefully, I need to ask something important. Does your mom have anything from before Margaret found her? She frowned. Why? Please, it matters. Mia bit her lip. She has a silver pen. She says it was in her coat pocket when Margaret found her. It's special to her. She keeps it in her jewelry box. Does it have initials? Mia nodded. SF, I think. She thought it might be hers. But her name starts with N. Liam exhaled, heart pounding. Selena Foster, he whispered. Mia's face blanched. What does that mean? That pen belonged to my mom, Liam said softly. My real mom, the woman who disappeared 10 years ago. I've seen photos of that pen. My grandfather gave it to her when she graduated law school. Mia backed away slightly, processing. You think my mom is your mom? I think we're siblings, Liam said gently. Half siblings, maybe. But yeah, I think she's Selena Foster. That evening, in Seattle, Alan Foster knelt beside a small antique jewelry box in Selena's old study. He'd rifled through it before many times. Her wedding ring, her pearl earrings, the locket with baby Liam's photo. But something Ryan had said nagged at him. Selena was cautious. She kept backups, notes. He ran his fingers along the inner edge of the drawer, feeling for an irregularity. Near the back, something clicked. A hidden compartment. Inside, a slim leather journal. His breath caught. He opened it, page after page, in her handwriting dated and detailed. Notes, doubts, fears. The last entries were days before she vanished. May 10th, confirmed suspicions. Victor's using offshore accounts to launder funds through shell companies. Millions involved. We'll confront him with evidence tomorrow. We'll tell Alan after that. May 11th, doctor confirmed pregnancy. 8 weeks. Haven't told Alan yet. Liam. We'll be excited to be a big brother. Alan's hands trembled. She'd discovered the fraud. She'd been pregnant. And the final entry, May 12th. Meeting Victor tonight. He says he'll explain everything. It stopped mid-sentence. Alan dialed immediately. Ryan, he said breathlessly. I found it. Her journal. She was going to expose Victor, and she was pregnant. The timing matches Mia's age exactly. I'll start preparing a case, Ryan replied. But we'll need more than a journal to convict. That same night, Victor Langston sat in his office, staring at surveillance footage from inside Alan's house. Video Alan didn't know existed. He watched as Alan discovered the false compartment. He found it, Victor muttered. Standing behind him, Diana was pale. What did she write? Enough to destroy everything. He slammed his laptop shut. We need to act fast. I want to meet this Nora Hayes myself. In Port Bright, Mia led Liam quietly into their home. Mom's still at work. The pen is in her bedroom. In the dim light of Nora's room, Mia opened the jewelry box. Liam picked up the silver pen. His fingers traced the engraving. Selena Foster, J.D. This is it, he whispered. Mia's voice trembled. You really think she's your mom? Liam nodded. This pen proves it. We have to tell her. Just then, the front door opened. Mia, you home? Liam placed the pen back just as Nora entered. She paused in the doorway, eyes shifting between them. What are you two doing in my room? Mia stepped forward, holding back tears. Who's Selena Foster? Nora's breath caught. Where did you hear that name? Are you her? Mia whispered. Is Liam my brother? Liam lifted the pen slowly. These are her initials. This belonged to my mom. I think you're her. Nora's hands shook as she took the pen. She stared at it, her voice barely audible. I don't know. I honestly don't know, but if I am, then we're all in danger. The next morning, Nora arrived at the lighthouse grill and found an envelope taped to the back door. Inside were more articles, more photos, more proof. Selena Foster. Missing. Presumed dead. One image showed her at a gala, the birthmark visible. Another, Alan, Selena, and Liam. As a family, she nearly collapsed. Margaret rushed over. You okay? Nora handed her the envelope. This was waiting for me. It's that damn detective, Margaret growled. Ryan Graves, stirring everything up. Or helping me find the truth, Nora whispered. She pulled out the photograph of Selena laughing, the birthmark clear. Even that scar on her hand, it's in the same spot. Margaret looked away. You said you recognized me the night. You found me, Nora said. Why didn't you tell me who I was? Because I was there that night, Margaret admitted. The night Victor threatened to kill Selena. I overheard everything. He knew she had evidence. That's why he fired me to silence me, and when you found me, I thought you were dead. Your car was wrecked, blood everywhere, but you were alive, pregnant, with no memory. You didn't take me to the hospital, because Victor would have found you, Margaret said, firmly. I brought you here. I protected you and Mia. Nora's hands trembled. I believe you. But now, the truth's out. The cafe bell jingled. Mom! Mia ran inside breathless. Liam and his dad are outside. He said they want to talk. Nora peeked through the window. There they were. Alan, Liam, waiting. Don't go out there, Margaret warned. What if it's a trap? I have to know, Nora said. She touched her birthmark. I remembered something last night, she said quietly. I was in an office. Victor was threatening me. Then driving on a mountain road. Headlights behind. Be getting closer. Margaret's face paled. He ran you off the road. I think so, Nora said. And it's time I stopped running. She took Mia's hand. Together, they stepped outside. Alan and Liam got out of the car. The four of them stood facing each other, a family, splintered by time and betrayal. Nora swallowed hard. We need to talk, she said. Alan nodded. Yes, we really do. They sat at a quiet table behind the lighthouse grill, far from the eyes of curious customers. The coastal wind hummed against the windows, and tension hung thick between them like salt in the air. Alan Foster placed a worn leather journal on the table, followed by several photographs. Nora stared at them, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. My son told me about the pen, Alan began, voice soft. And I found this last night, hidden in Selena's old study, her journal. Nora glanced down, not touching it. She wrote it in the days leading up to her disappearance, Alan continued. In it, she details financial irregularities, evidence of money laundering connected to my business partner, Victor Langston. Nora's eyes met his, cautious but curious. And there's more, said Liam, sitting beside her. She wrote that she found out she was pregnant, 8 weeks along. Mia's eyes widened. That would be me? Nora reached out, finally running her fingers over the journal's leather cover. Then her eyes lifted again. I've been having flashes, she whispered. Bits and pieces, an office, a man yelling, documents, numbers, driving on a rainy road with headlights behind me, a boy's voice calling for his mom. Liam blinked quickly, his throat tight. That could be me. I called for you every night for years. Nora reached across the table, gently taking his hand. I wish I remembered you clearly. I really do. Alan's voice broke the silence. The doctor said the amnesia might be part trauma, part self-protection, a response to nearly being killed. So, what now? What? Nora asked, glancing between them. If I really am Selena Foster, what happens next? Before Alan could answer, a sleek black SUV rolled to a stop outside the cafe. Victor Langston stepped out, immaculate as always in a tailored suit, his expression cool and predatory. "That's him," Nora whispered, her face draining of color. "That's the man from my memory, the one who threatened me." Alan stood protectively. "Stay here," he said. But before he could take a step, Ryan Graves appeared around the corner with 2 uniformed officers at his side. "Right on time," Ryan muttered as Victor approached the front doors. Inside, Margaret ushered the last customers out. The cafe quickly emptied, leaving only Nora, Alan, the children, and their past. Victor stepped inside, flashing a smile that didn't touch his eyes. Behind him came Diana Langston, her heels clacking sharply on the wood floor. "Alan." Victor said casually. "What a surprise. Diana and I were just passing through. Thought we'd discuss the Port Bright development." "No coincidence, then?" Alan said flatly. "You've been tracking me." "Paranoia doesn't suit you," Victor replied, voice calm. "This woman," he gestured toward Nora, "is clearly manipulating your grief. Her name is Nora Hayes. Nothing more." Alan remained composed. "She arrived in Port Bright 10 years ago with amnesia, pregnant. Her daughter is now 9. The dates line up perfectly." Victor sighed. "A single mother trying to improve her circumstances. Happens every day. She's worked double shifts in this cafe since I was a baby," Mia interrupted, her voice firm. "She's no scammer." Victor's gaze turned icy. Diana clutched his arm tighter as she spotted Mia's resemblance to Alan. "If you'll excuse us," Victor said stiffly, starting to turn away. "Not so fast," said Ryan, stepping into his path. "Victor Langston, I have questions about the night Selena Foster disappeared." Victor's lips curled. "You? I heard you were thrown off the force for misconduct." "I was removed from the case for getting too close to the truth," Ryan said. "A truth that includes embezzlement, attempted murder, and obstruction." Diana raised her voice. "This is absurd. You have no evidence." "Actually," Alan said, placing the journal on the counter, "we do. Her journal, detailed notes, her suspicions, her final meeting with Victor." Victor's face tightened. "We also have a sworn statement," Ryan added, "from a witness who overheard you threatening her and who saw your car the next morning with blood on the door." "That's hearsay," Victor said coolly. Then Nora stepped forward. "What about my word?" she asked. Victor turned, stunned by the sudden confidence in her voice. "I remember now," she said. "You said if I went to Alan with what I found, I'd never live to see the consequences." "That's impossible. I remember the documents. Cayman accounts, East Shore casinos, shell corporations. You shouted at me, threatened me. Then, I was driving, rain, headlight, your car chasing me." Victor faltered, eyes darting to the exit. "You tried to kill her," Alan said coldly. "My wife, the mother of my son, and she was carrying our daughter." Victor's eyes flicked to Mia, now clutching Nora's hand. Then to Diana, who stepped back from him, shocked. "You said she lost control," Diana whispered. "That it was an accident. You never said you chased her." The officers stepped forward. Victor's shoulders tensed. He lunged, grabbing Mia. He wrapped an arm around her, dragging her back. "Stay back," he barked. "I'm leaving, with insurance." "Let her go," Nora screamed, lunging forward. Victor's grip tightened. Mia's face was pale, but her voice didn't waver. "You hurt her so badly," she said softly. "She forgot everything. Me, my brother, my dad. You broke our family." For a brief second, Victor hesitated. It was enough. Liam, who had crept around behind him, grabbed a metal tray from a nearby table and slammed it into Victor's head. Victor stumbled, releasing Mia. She ran into Nora's arms, sobbing. Officers tackled Victor, pinning him to the ground. Diana stepped back, hands in the air. "I had nothing to do with this. He told me she disappeared." Ryan nodded to a third officer waiting outside. "We'll be speaking with you too, Diana, about your role in covering for your brother." As Victor and Diana were escorted out, in cuffs, the cafe fell silent again. Alan, Nora, Liam, and Mia stood together, shaken, breathless. Mia turned to Nora, wiping her tears. "So are you my mom? Or are you Selena?" Nora knelt, cupping her daughter's face. "I'm both," she said through tears. "I'm the woman who raised you. And I think I'm starting to remember the one who carried you inside me." She reached for Liam, pulling him into the hug. He held her tightly, tears streaming down his face. Alan watched them, his eyes wet. "Selena," he whispered. Nora looked up at him. Her voice trembled with realization. "I think I'm finding my way back." The front page of the Seattle Times screamed, "Business tycoon arrested. Victor Langston charged in attempted murder case." In smaller print beneath, "Missing heiress found living as waitress with amnesia." The newspaper lay folded on the kitchen counter. Of the Foster family's lake house, where Nora Hayes, now known again as Selena Foster, stared out across the still waters, hands wrapped around a steaming mug of tea. The lake shimmered under the morning sun, the same lake she once loved before everything shattered. Alan stepped into the room, holding an envelope. "The DNA results came back," he said quietly. Selena didn't move. "We already know." "I know, but the prosecutor wanted it documented." She took the envelope and laid it beside the newspaper. It confirmed what her heart had already begun to accept. She was Selena Foster, and Mia, her sweet, perceptive daughter, was Alan's biological child. "What happens now?" she asked, her voice low. "Victor and Diana are both being held without bail," Alan said. "The charges are extensive. Martha's testimony was key. The prosecutor considers her a witness, not an accomplice. She saved your life." Selena nodded, blinking against the emotions welling in her chest. Outside the window, they could see Liam teaching Mia how to fish off the dock. They laughed together like they had done it their whole lives. "The company's a mess," Alan continued. "Victor left a trail of destruction. I've started the restitution process for clients he defrauded. But it'll take time. And money." Selena sighed. "And me? The attorneys are filing paperwork to restore your identity. It's complicated. Legally, you've been dead for 10 years. But with the DNA and testimonies, they're moving quickly." She touched the crescent birthmark on her collarbone, a reflex that still surprised her. "I want to keep both names," she said. "Selena and Nora. I've lived as both. They're both me now." Alan nodded, his voice warm. "Whatever you need." She looked out the window again, watching the children. "They're adjusting," she said. "They're trying," Alan agreed. "But it's not easy, especially for Mia." Just yesterday, Mia had locked herself in the guest room for hours after Alan casually mentioned enrolling her in Ravenswood Academy, Seattle's most elite school for gifted children. "You can't just decide my future," she'd yelled through the door. "You weren't here for 9 years. You don't get to be my dad now." Selena had found Alan standing outside the door afterward, his shoulders slumped, holding a framed photo of the family they used to be. "She'll come around," Selena had whispered, though uncertainty lingered in her own heart. "She's just scared." "It's not just Mia," Alan had replied. "It's you too. Sometimes you look at me like I'm a stranger." "In many ways you are," she'd said gently. "The woman who loved you. She's still in here. But she's buried under 10 years of someone else's life. I'm still finding her." Now on the porch with Liam the next morning, she accepted a mug of cocoa from him. He sat beside her, both of them wrapped in sweaters against the mountain chill. "The nightmares are different now," she said. "Still bad? Less frightening, but more confusing. Like, I'm remembering, but not in order." Liam leaned forward. "Yesterday I remembered you teaching me to ride a bike. I was 5. I scraped my knee and refused to cry. You told me Morgan men don't cry," she said with a soft smile. "But they're smart enough to wear knee pads next time." They laughed, tentatively but sincerely. Later, Mia emerged from the house. Her eyes were still red from crying the night before. "Hey, Bug," Selena greeted gently, using the old nickname that had returned to her in a dream. Mia curled up beside her on the swing, quiet for a long moment. I'm sorry I yelled yesterday, she said finally. You're allowed to be upset, Selena replied. Everything's changing so fast. Liam showed me pictures of the house in Seattle. It's like a castle. Do I have to act different there? Talk different? Before Selena could answer, Alan stepped out onto the porch holding a chessboard. I thought, maybe we could play, he offered gently. To their surprise, Mia sat up. I know how. She's actually really good, Liam added, smiling. Alan set the board down, and Mia made the first move, an unusual, aggressive opening. Selena blinked. It was the exact opening she used to play. Alan's eyes widened. She plays just like you. Somewhere deep inside, Selena felt something lock into place. Memory. Connection. Home. As father and daughter played, Liam leaned toward his mother. Do you think we'll ever feel like a normal family again? Selena watched the game unfold. Alan laughed as Mia captured his queen. The air was light, tinged with something new, something healing. Not normal, she said at last. But maybe, someday, whole. 3 weeks had passed since the confrontation at the Lighthouse Grill. 3 weeks of court depositions, medical evaluations, and a delicate dance of emotional repair within the slowly reuniting Foster family. Selena Foster, still adjusting to life beyond her alias as Nora Hayes, walked out of her therapy session, phone buzzing in her coat pocket. When she picked up, Alan's voice was tight on the other end. Turn on the news. On the television in the lake house living room, a reporter stood in front of the courthouse. Shocking new claims in the Victor Langston case. Allegations have emerged that Selena Foster, the long-missing heiress, may have faked her disappearance in an elaborate scheme to defraud her husband's company. Selena's knees buckled, and she dropped onto the couch. Victor's attorneys had gone public, painting her as the villain. They're saying I planned this? She whispered when Alan called again. They claim you and Margaret staged everything, that the head trauma was self-inflicted, that you disappeared to avoid testifying against Victor and somehow took advantage of your own company's finances. Selena's hands trembled. But the medical records, they're spinning them, Alan said grimly, claiming the injuries were minimal, that the amnesia was convenient. They're using everything. At that moment, a new headline flashed across the screen. Confirmed. Selena Foster pregnant again. Is the timing suspicious? Selena stared, stunned. She hadn't told anyone yet. Alan's voice returned, almost cautious. Is it true? Yes, she whispered. I found out a few days ago. I wanted to tell you in person. How did Victor find out? He must still have connections. Hospital staff, leaked files. Alan exhaled sharply. He's desperate. He's playing dirty. Just then, the door opened. Liam and Mia burst, in laughing, until they saw the tension in their parents' faces. What's wrong? Liam asked immediately, steering Mia toward the hallway. Selena tried to compose herself. Nothing. Just adult things. Later that night, after the children were asleep, Selena found Alan sitting on the dock, staring out across the black water, the moonlight dancing over his hands. I'm sorry you found out about the baby. That way, she said quietly. Alan looked up, eyes unreadable. It's not your fault. I didn't know what to say. I'm still trying to figure out who I am. And now, another child. He stood slowly. Are you okay with this? I don't know, she admitted. I'm terrified, but also excited. This baby, unlike Mia, I'll remember. You'll be there. It won't be stolen from us. She hesitated. If that's what you want. Alan stepped closer, gently, taking her hand. What I want, he said, is for you to choose freely, whether you're Selena or Nora or both. I just want you to be happy. She leaned her head on his shoulder, the gesture still new, still unfamiliar but not unwelcome. Together they watched the stars shimmer across the lake, knowing that the battle wasn't over. But for once, they weren't facing it alone. 1 year later. The sun dipped low behind the hills, casting golden light over Silverpine Lake, where the water glowed like polished glass. A gentle breeze carried the scent of pine and wildflowers, rustling the tall grass lining the cliff's edge. Selina Foster stood quietly, a white shawl draped over her shoulders, her hand resting on her growing belly. She was 6 months pregnant. Now and this time she remembered everything. Her past, her children, her identity. Behind her, a small crowd gathered: Alan, Liam, Mia, Margaret, Ryan Graves, and a handful of close family and friends. On the grass nearby sat a woven basket, filled with paper lanterns, each one painted with symbols of memory, healing, and hope. Today wasn't a celebration. It wasn't a memorial either. It was something in between. A ritual they'd invented together to mark the day Selina was declared officially alive again. The legal restoration had taken months. There were court hearings, psychological evaluations, and even public apologies aired across news stations. Victor Langston remained behind bars. His assets were seized. Diana had accepted a plea deal and disappeared from public life. But none of that had brought Selina peace the way this simple gathering now did. As Mia gently lit a lantern, Selina knelt beside her. "Do you want to go first?" she asked. Mia nodded solemnly, lifting her lantern and whispering, "To the mom I had, and the one I found." She released the lantern, and it floated upward, catching the wind. A shimmer of warm light rose into the sky. Then came Liam, who lit his with a grin. For the family that wouldn't give up. One by one, they released their lanterns, each carrying memories, pain, forgiveness. When it was Selina's turn, she held hers close for a long moment. "For the years I lost, and the life I reclaimed," she said softly. Then she let go. The lantern caught the breeze and soared higher than the rest. Later that night, after the others had gone, Alan sat beside her on the porch of the lake house. The stars blinked above, like ancient eyes watching quietly. "I never thought I'd see you here again," he said, sipping from a mug of warm cider. "Neither did I," she replied. "But maybe I was always meant to come back." "You've rebuilt everything," he said. "A new identity, new memories. And still, you're stronger than ever." Selina smiled. Not alone. Never again alone. Inside the house, Mia was helping Liam pack for his trip to a youth chess tournament. Their bond had only grown stronger, like they'd never missed a decade apart. And for the first time in her life, Selina could feel it. Wholeness, not perfection, not forgetfulness, but something even deeper. Peace. Alan placed a hand over hers. "Whatever comes next," he said. "We'll face it together." Selina looked out at the lake, the place where her old life had ended and her new one had begun. She closed her eyes, breathed in deeply, and whispered, "I'm ready."